Most stories on this channel end with freedom. The prison gates open. A person walks out. There is a car park, a family, a morning that contains all the mornings that were taken. There is injustice, and then there is correction. The correction arrives too late and costs too much, but it arrives. This story does not end that way. Joseph Abiadin was 67 years old when he died in a Texas state prison in March 2019. He had been there for 31 years. He had been convicted in 1988 of a murder he had not committed, and he had spent 31 years maintaining his innocence with the consistent, undramatic persistence of a man who had decided that telling the truth was the only thing he had control over. He died without seeing his exoneration. He died as a convicted murderer in the eyes of the law, which is what the law said he was and what he had never been. 6 months after his death, the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals reviewed new evidence, DNA evidence and a recanted statement, and declared his conviction to have been a miscarriage of justice. His name was formally cleared. His record was expunged. He was not there to hear it. His daughter, Amara, was. She had been 4 years old when her father was taken away. She was 35 years old when his name was cleared. She had visited him in prison every year of those 31 years. She had never stopped fighting, and she had been too late by 6 months. I want to tell this story not to create despair, though despair is one honest response, but because Joseph Abiadin's story contains something that the stories of people who were freed do not. It contains the full cost, the absolute cost. The cost when the system's correction comes after the person it wronged is no longer alive to receive it. That cost deserves to be spoken clearly, without softening. Joseph Abiadin had been born in Nigeria in 1952, the fourth of 6 children in a family from Ibadan. He had come to the United States in 1974 at the age of 22 to study engineering at the University of Houston. He had stayed, not because the plan had been to stay, but because life had organized itself around staying in the way that lives sometimes do. He had met a woman named Grace. He had married her. He had built a career as an electrical engineer at a Houston firm. He had a daughter, Amara, born in 1984. He had a modest house in a Houston suburb. He had a life that was built from hard work and discipline, and the particular kind of faith that comes from having arrived somewhere with nothing and made something from it. He was 36 years old in the autumn of 1988. On the evening of October 22, 1988, a 32-year-old man named Darnell Cooper was shot and killed in a Houston car park during what police believed was a robbery gone wrong. His wallet and car keys were taken. His car was found 2 streets away. Joseph Abiadin had been at a gas station 3 blocks from the car park at approximately the same time. His car had been caught on the gas station's external security camera, which showed him filling his tank and going into the shop. He had been there for approximately 12 minutes. He had not been in the car park. He had never met Darnell Cooper. He had been buying petrol and a bottle of water on his way home from an evening meeting at his firm. None of this would matter. Not for 31 years. The investigation of Darnell Cooper's murder moved quickly. There was a witness, a man named Clarence Webb, who had been in the car park that evening and who told police he had seen a man he described as foreign-looking, in his 30s, approaching Darnell's car before the shooting. Clarence Webb was shown a photograph lineup. He identified Joseph Abiadin. He was certain. There was also a second piece of evidence that the prosecution would lean on heavily: a palm print recovered from Darnell Cooper's car. The palm print was partial and degraded. The prosecution's forensic examiner testified that it was consistent with Joseph Abiadin's palm print. The defense's forensic examiner testified that the print was too degraded to be used for reliable identification. The gas station footage existed. Joseph's attorney knew about it and requested it. The gas station's owner said the tape had been recorded over after 30 days, standard practice at the time. The footage no longer existed. This was true. The tape had been recorded over. But what the defense did not know, what would not be discovered for 30 years, was that the gas station had installed a second camera in August 1988, 2 months before the murder, that covered the street in front of the station. This camera had also been running on the night of October 22nd. Its footage had also been retained on a separate tape that had not been recorded over because it was on a different recording system. That tape had sat in a cardboard box in the gas station owner's storage room from 1988 until 2018. The owner had died in 2004. His son had been clearing out the storage room in preparation for selling the property when he found the box. but that is getting 30 years ahead of where we are. In 1988, the prosecution had Clarence Webb's identification and a partial palm print. The defense had a gas station visit that could not be proved. Joseph maintained he had been buying petrol. Nobody could prove it. The trial of Joseph Abiodun took place in the spring of 1989 in Houston. It lasted 9 days. Joseph testified in his own defense. He described his evening of October 22, 1988, in precise detail. He described the meeting at his firm, which his colleagues confirmed, and which was documented in the firm's records. He described driving home. He described stopping at the gas station, described the bottle of water he had bought and the Indian clerk who had served him. He said he had been there for approximately 12 minutes. He said he had gone home and found his wife and daughter asleep. His wife Grace confirmed he had been home by 9:30. The murder had occurred at approximately 8:50. The gas station was 7 minutes from the car park. The timing was tight, very tight, but the prosecution's timeline placed the murder earlier, around 8:40, which would have made it impossible for Joseph to have been at both places. The prosecution challenged everything. They suggested Joseph's colleagues could have misremembered the time of the meeting's end. They suggested Grace's memory of his arrival time was approximate. They noted that the gas station clerk had not been found to testify. The Indian clerk had, in fact, been located by the defense. He was a student who had been working part-time. He remembered a Nigerian man in professional clothes buying water on a busy evening. He was willing to testify. He was not called, a decision his defense attorney made, and has been questioned about in the years since, because the clerk's identification of a Nigerian man was considered by the attorney to potentially harm more than help. It was a judgment call. It may have been the wrong one. The jury deliberated for 3 days. They found Joseph Abiodun guilty of murder in the first degree. He was sentenced to life imprisonment. He was 36 years old. His daughter Amara was 4. His wife Grace sat in the courtroom and did not make a sound. Later she said she had gone completely silent inside, that the verdict had produced in her a silence so complete and so deep that she had not fully come back from it for years. Joseph Abiodun entered the Texas Department of Criminal Justice in the summer of 1989. He would not leave it alive. He spent 31 years being, by every account, exactly what he had always been. He worked. He was disciplined. He helped other inmates with legal correspondence, with literacy, with the practical navigation of an institution that is difficult even for the people who understand it. The prison staff who have given statements about him in the years since describe him consistently as quiet, helpful, and possessed of a dignity that the institution had not diminished. He never accepted his guilt. He filed appeals in 1991, in 1996, in 2003, in 2009. Each was rejected. His attorneys changed. He continued. Grace visited every month for the first 10 years. Then the marriage ended, not with bitterness, she has said, but with the gentle exhaustion of two people whose life together had been separated by 30 years of institutional walls and could not be reconstructed through monthly visits. They remained in contact. She never stopped believing in his innocence. She simply could not continue in the specific shape of a wife waiting. Amara visited every year without exception. Every year from the time she was old enough to understand what the visits were until the year he died. She grew from a 4-year-old who did not understand what had happened into a woman who understood it completely and had organized her life around fighting it. She became a paralegal in her 20s, then trained as a solicitor. She worked on other wrongful conviction cases while working on her father's. She was, by her early 30s, one of the most knowledgeable people in Texas on the post-conviction legal landscape. She had built a case for her father that was as strong as she knew how to make it. She needed one more thing. She needed the evidence she did not yet have. Joseph Abiodun developed heart disease in his early 60s. He had a procedure in 2016. He recovered partially. He continued to file, to correspond, to fight in the methodical, undramatic way he had been fighting since 1989. He died on the morning of March 14, 2019. He was 67 years old. The prison chaplain was with him. He had asked, the chaplain said later, to pray. He had prayed. And then he had died, still a convicted murderer, still officially guilty of killing a man he had never met. In November 2018, 4 months before Joseph's death, the son of the gas station owner, who had died in 2004, had been clearing out a storage room in preparation for selling the property. In a cardboard box at the back of the storage room, he found several old VHS tapes. They were labeled with dates in 1988. He did not know what they were. He almost threw them away. Then he looked at the dates more carefully and remembered that his father had mentioned, years ago, a police investigation at the property in 1988. He kept them. He held them for several months, uncertain what to do with them. In February 2019, 3 weeks before Joseph's death, he contacted the Houston Police Department. He said he had found old security tapes from 1988 and did not know if they were relevant to anything. The police received the tapes. They were reviewed. One tape showed the street outside the gas station on the evening of October 22, 1988. It showed a car pulling into the station forecourt. It showed a man getting out of the car, filling the tank, going into the station, coming back out with a small bag, getting back in the car and driving away. The footage was 30 years old and the quality was poor. But the car matched the description of Joseph's car, make, color, and a partial plate number that was consistent with his registration. The time stamp on the footage showed 8:43 to 8:55. The murder had occurred at approximately 8:40 in the car park, 3 blocks away. The footage made it impossible for Joseph Abiadin to have been in the car park at the time of the murder. He had been at the gas station. He had always said so. The tape reached Amara's desk, through the legal channels she had established over years of pursuing her father's case. In early March 2019, she called her father immediately. She told him what had been found. She told him this might be it. She told him to hold on. Joseph died 9 days later. He died knowing the tape existed. He did not live to hear what it meant for his conviction. The process of exoneration after death is a specific and painful bureaucratic landscape. The evidence must still meet the legal standards. The courts must still review. The outcome, the clearing of a name, has no beneficiary in the most important sense. It does not open a prison gate for the person it concerns. Amara Abiadin filed the post-conviction application in April 2019, 1 month after her father's death. She did it because he had asked her to in the final week of his life. He had asked her to finish what they had started. She had said she would. The Texas Court of Criminal Appeals reviewed the case over 5 months. The VHS footage was forensically analyzed. The timestamp was confirmed to be accurate to the original recording. The car was confirmed to match Joseph's vehicle registration. A Clarence Webb, now 63 years old, was re-interviewed. Confronted with the footage, he said, in a statement that he signed and that has since been read into the public record, that he was no longer certain of his original identification and that he was sorry. In September 2019, the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals declared Joseph Abiadin's conviction to be a miscarriage of justice. His record was expunged. His name was cleared. Amara received the notification at her office on a Thursday afternoon. She read it once. She sat at her desk for a long time. Then she drove to the cemetery where her father had been buried 5 months earlier, in a simple plot in a Houston cemetery, in the section for people who die in prison. She sat by the grave for a long time. She had brought a copy of the court's ruling. She read it aloud, sitting in the Houston afternoon, to the man who had waited 31 years for it and had not quite made it. She said later that she does not know if he heard it. She said she does not know if she believes in that kind of hearing. But she read it anyway, because he deserved to have it read. The state of Texas does not provide posthumous compensation to exonerated individuals. The compensation statute requires the recipient to be alive to receive it. This is a policy that the state legislature has been asked to review. As of the writing of this story, it has not been changed. Amara has pursued civil claims on behalf of her father's estate. The litigation is ongoing. Clarence Webb, whose identification had started everything, has not been charged with any offense. His original identification was made in good faith. His later admission that he was no longer certain is not, in itself, a criminal act. The gas station tape sat in a box for 30 years. The original investigation was conducted with the tools and practices of 1988, when the existence of a second camera at a gas station was not the kind of thing investigators routinely checked. This is not an excuse. It is a fact that describes the limits of the original investigation and the cost of those limits. Grace Abiadin, Joseph's ex-wife, was told of the exoneration by Amara. She said she had always known. She said knowing had not been the problem. She said the problem had been that knowing had not been enough. Amara Abiadin continues to practice law. She works specifically in post-conviction cases, specializing in cases where elderly or ill defendants may not live to see their appeals resolved. She advocates for procedural changes that would allow exoneration proceedings to move more quickly when a defendant's health is declining. She has testified before the Texas legislature on this issue twice. She keeps a photograph of her father on her desk. It was taken before the arrest, in 1987, at a family gathering, her father in his mid-30s, laughing at something off camera. She has said that she keeps that photograph specifically because she wants to remember him as he was before, not as the man who spent 31 years in prison, as the man who was going to be something else entirely, and was not permitted to be. I do not know how to end this story with anything that does not feel inadequate. Joseph Abiodun was innocent. He said so for 31 years. He was right. He died before anyone officially agreed with him. That is the whole of it. The system that imprisoned him had the opportunity to find the tape at any point in those 31 years. The tape was in a storage room 3 blocks from where it would have proved everything. The system did not find it. A man clearing out his late father's property found it. Joseph Abiodun is not here to receive the apology that the system has not offered. His daughter is. I hope she knows, and I believe she does, that the people who hear this story will carry something of her father forward, that the 31 years will not end with a grave, that they will end, instead, with enough people understanding what happened that it becomes slightly less likely to happen to someone else. That is the only justice available now. It is not enough, but it is what there is.